Security was already behind me when he said my name. Not walking in, already there. That was the part that landed first. Not the insult. Not the firing. The fact that someone had decided this before I even looked up. Incompetent people like you aren't part of my plan. Get out. The words hit the table hard. Too clean. Too confident. Like he'd rehearsed them in the car. The CEO's son stood at the head of the room, shoulders back, jaw set, playing a role he hadn't earned yet. I didn't move right away. Someone inhaled sharply to my left. Someone else pushed their chair back a few inches, then froze. No one spoke. The security guard shifted his stance. Rubber soles squeaked against tile. That sound cut through everything. That's when it clicked. This wasn't a decision. It was a performance. I stayed seated long enough to make him uncomfortable. Just long enough. Then I reached for my notebook. Not the laptop. The notebook mattered. My fingers shook a little. I hated that. No arguing, no explaining. I wasn't giving him that. When I stood, he leaned forward slightly, like he expected resistance or collapse. I gave him neither. I passed close enough to smell his cologne. Sharp, expensive, new money. Good luck to you and your father. The sentence came out flat. Not brave, not dramatic, just done. That finally cracked something. His jaw tightened for half a second before he caught it. Eyes flicked to the door. To security, back to me. He hadn't planned for that line. I kept walking. The hallway felt wrong. Too quiet, like everyone was pretending not to hear what had just happened. My badge knocked once against my hip with each step. Annoying. Heavy. My name is Aria Caldwell. 41 years old. I'd worked in that building long enough to know when something was off. And being fired like that public, rushed, watched was off. You don't bring witnesses unless you're afraid of what someone might say. The elevator doors closed. My phone buzzed in my pocket, then buzzed again. I didn't look. Not yet. Whatever was waiting could wait another minute. The story you're about to hear is a fictional work created by the writing team at RevengeAITA. It is inspired by real workplace power struggles and corporate conflicts, but all characters and events have been dramatized for storytelling purposes. By the time the elevator started moving, I understood one thing clearly. That wasn't the end of me. It was someone trying very hard to make sure I didn't get another chance to speak. Why was HR calling me like I died instead of been fired? The first call came before I finished setting my notebook on the kitchen counter. Then another, then an email. Subject line polite, almost gentle, like I'd slipped and fallen. Not been shoved out in front of witnesses. I let the phone buzz. Watched it creep toward the edge of the counter, vibrating like it wanted to escape. A voicemail followed anyway. We just need a signature, a pause, paper shuffling. Standard process. Another pause. Softer now. For closure. The email attachment stayed unopened. I didn't even hover over it. Something about the timing felt wrong. Too fast, too eager, like they wanted my name on paper before the story settled. Another message came in. Shorter this time. Please confirm receipt. I turned the phone face down. This is the part where I should have called a friend, or poured a drink, or screamed into a pillow like a normal person. Instead, I did something I hadn't planned on doing at all. I called a lawyer. We hadn't spoken in years. Not since I told myself I was done needing that kind of protection. He answered on the second ring. No small talk. No surprise. I was fired. I said, because it felt safer to say it out loud to someone who wouldn't flinch. Silence on the line. Not awkward. Calculating. They want paperwork. I added, exit interview, signatures, a breath on his end. Slow. Have you signed anything? No. Good. That word landed heavier than comfort ever does. I don't want anyone notified yet. I said, no board, no announcements. Another pause. Longer. Are you sure I need time? Then don't respond. Let them keep calling. The phone on my counter lit up again, rattling against the surface. I watched it vibrate itself sideways. We ended the call without goodbyes. I stood there longer than I meant to, staring at a dark screen and a stack of unopened messages, knowing I didn't have a plan. Just a feeling that if I answered too soon, I'd be agreeing to something I couldn't take back. So I let it ring. Why does a company flinch at its own history? No one says my dad's name anymore. They say legacy. They say it like it's a piece of furniture they don't want to move but won't admit they're afraid of. I noticed it years ago. Meetings would stall. Someone would glance my way, then look past me like the answer might be written on the wall. When I brought up something he used to insist on process, checks, people before Flash the room would tighten. That was a different time. Not angry, dismissive, like brushing dust off a sleeve. He built this place in the late 1990s. One floor, South Loop, bad coffee that tasted like burned hope. He slept in the office some nights. I remember him coming home with ink on his hands and that tired smile he saved for when he didn't want us to worry. After he died, the tone shifted. Doors closed more often. Decisions happened elsewhere. The elevator started jerking between floors like it couldn't decide where it belonged. I learned to brace my knees before it lurched. His grandson hated that people still looked at me when things got stuck. I could feel it. The pause, the irritation. Like my presence reminded him of a standard he didn't ask for. "Why are you still here?" once slipped out during a review. Not loud, just enough to sting. I stayed anyway. Stupid, maybe. I told myself it mattered that I earned my seat, that walking away would prove them right. I worked harder, took less credit, waited my turn. Patience, I thought. Consistency. Show up and eventually they'll have to see you. That was my mistake. I really believed patience counted for something. That's on me. The last time someone almost said his name out loud, the room went quiet. Someone coughed. Another person started talking too fast about projections. The moment passed. I didn't push it. I kept my head down. I told myself there would be time. By the time the elevator finally reached my floor that morning, I understood something I hadn't wanted to before. They weren't forgetting him. They were avoiding what he built. What would you do if your life changed on a Tuesday with no warning? The folder slid across the table and stopped right at my wrist. I laughed. A short, sharp sound. Automatic. The kind you make when your brain thinks this has to be a joke because the alternative feels unsafe. Then I opened it. The laugh didn't come back. The numbers sat there. Plain and quiet. 90%. Voting shares, active. No footnotes trying to soften it. No conditional language. Just ownership. Spelled out in a way that didn't ask for permission. My name was on every page. Clean. Legal. No gray space. I flipped through it too fast, then slowed down like speed might change what I was reading. Trust structure, private, intentional. Designed not to trigger attention until someone chose to pull the thread. Across the table. He didn't rush me. That was new. Usually people hurry when they think they're about to lose control. That's current. Came evenly. Not pending. Not symbolic. I looked up, then back down again. Like the paper might rearrange itself if I blinked. It didn't. "There's a letter," he added, tapping the last page with one finger. Not pushing, just pointing. I unfolded it. Recognized the handwriting before I read a word. Dad always wrote like he was in a hurry to get somewhere important. Wait, watch, decide. 3 lines. No explanations. No comfort. He never liked repeating himself. My hand started shaking. Not a lot. Enough that I noticed. I hated that part. I pressed my palms flat on the table, like that might hold me together. The coffee between us had gone cold, thin skin on top. Neither of us reached for it. This stayed quiet on purpose. He said, "Your father was clear about that. I worked there for years." I said, the words came out wrong, accusatory, like I was blaming the paper. He didn't defend it. He wanted you to see people clearly before you chose. I wish I could tell you I felt powerful in that moment. I mostly felt sick, like someone had handed me a loaded weapon and asked me to decide what kind of person I was going to be. I closed the folder, slowly. Don't notify anyone yet. A pause, then a nod. Understood. I picked up the folder again, heavier now, and realized something had already shifted. Not around me. Inside. Why rush someone who's busy destroying himself? He didn't wait long to start rearranging things. Names disappeared from internal lists overnight. People I trusted stopped showing up to meetings. By Friday, Half the floor knew someone who'd been walked out without warning. No explanations. Just badges collected and desks cleared like mistakes being erased. In a forwarded message I wasn't supposed to see, his language bled through. We need loyalty, clean house, fresh energy, no numbers, no data, just noise. Another email hit the team an hour later, announcing a promotion that made 3 people laugh out loud and 1 person cry in the stairwell. The wrong person. Everyone knew it. No one said it. I stayed invisible. On purpose. No replies. No LinkedIn updates. No goodbye lunches. I let the silence do its work. Let him enjoy the echo of his own voice bouncing around rooms that used to push back. At the lawyer's office, the printer hummed nonstop. A low mechanical whine that never seemed to finish a job. Page after page fed through, stacked neatly, waiting to become something real. This goes out Monday, he said, sliding the final document toward me. 1 agenda item, no soft language, no padding. Leadership review. I didn't ask who would be invited. I already knew. He watched my hands as I signed. Ink steady. No shaking this time. Once this is filed. He added, careful now, there's no pausing it. I know. A message came through on my phone while the printer started up again. His name, group announcement, something about momentum, about taking the company into the future. I turned the phone face down. This is the part people misunderstand later. They think waiting means hesitation, or fear, or kindness. Waiting felt wrong. Every instinct screamed to interrupt, to stop the damage mid-swing. But interrupting would have handed him the excuse he wanted. So I let him play CEO a little longer. By the time the paperwork finished printing, he'd already convinced himself the room belonged to him. And that belief was about to cost him everything. What happens when someone walks back into a room you erased them from? He was already talking when I opened the door. Hands moving. Voice steady. The kind of confidence that fills space because no one challenges it. He didn't see me at first. None of them did. Then someone at the far end stopped taking notes. My name landed wrong in his mouth. Like a typo. What are you doing here? A few heads turned. Slow. Careful. This meeting is for executives. I know. That was enough to break his rhythm. He stepped away from the table. Closer than necessary. Like proximity could push me back out. You need to leave. I didn't move. Chair legs scraped as someone shifted. The sound cut sharp through the room. I could feel every eye flick between us. Waiting for permission to breathe. This isn't appropriate. He tried again, louder now. The room didn't respond the way it usually did. No nods. No murmurs of agreement. I'm aware. He glanced at the board, searching for backup. It didn't come. A couple of them were already leaning forward. Hands folded. Attention finally where it hadn't been in years. This is not a discussion. He snapped, voice thinning at the edges. I set my folder on the table. Not hard, not dramatic, just enough to make a point. The table didn't belong to him anymore, even if he didn't know it yet. Silence pressed down. Heavy. Someone cleared their throat and immediately regretted it. You're out of line, he said, but it came late. After the shift, I stayed standing. Let the quiet stretch until it started working for me instead of against me. This meeting can continue. I said, or it can change. My heart was trying to beat its way out of my chest. I kept my hand still so no one would see it. He looked around again. This time slower. Calculating. For the first time since I walked in, he realized he wasn't the only one deciding what happened next. What's left to say when paperwork speaks first? The folder hit the table with a dull thud. Not loud, just final. A couple of people leaned in without realizing they were doing it. One of them froze halfway. Eyes narrowing. He'd seen that signature before. Not often. Not recently. That's not... The CEO's son started. Then raised his voice to cover the crack. Too loud. The room flinched. This is ridiculous. You don't get to walk in here and hijack. I opened the folder. One page, then another. Slow enough for everyone to keep up. This trust transferred voting control on activation. I said, keeping my hands flat on the table. Activation is complete. Someone at the far end whispered a name. My father's. It carried farther than intended. He slammed his palm down. You're twisting old paperwork. You think a name gives you authority? Authority didn't answer him. Paper did. 90%, I said. Once. No echo. Voting shares? In my name. A chair scraped back. Another person sat very still. The volume in the room dropped all at once, like someone had turned a knob. That's not possible, he barked, looking to the board for help. Say something. No one rushed in. A few eyes were already on the dates, the seals, the handwriting they remembered from a different era. I closed the folder. This meeting has one item. The word remove didn't need decoration. Effective immediately. I added, and slid the motion forward. My vote satisfies the requirement. He laughed, sharp and brittle. You need consensus. The secretary cleared her throat. The bylaws don't require it. That did it. He stood too fast. Chair legs screaming against the floor. This is a vendetta. I stayed where I was. It's governance. Silence again. Heavy. Earned. The secretary read the motion aloud. No one interrupted. When she finished, there was nothing left to argue with. No one clapped. Thank God. This wasn't satisfying. It was heavy. Like lifting something you didn't realize you'd been carrying for years and finally setting it down where it belonged. Security appeared at the door. Not for me. He looked at me once more, searching for something human to fight. I gave him nothing. Is it still a win if no one celebrates? The door clicked once when he left. A clean latch. Final. No shouting. No last threat. Just a straight walk out in a hallway that swallowed him. His father stayed seated, eyes fixed on the grain of the table like it might offer instructions. He didn't look up. Not at me, not at anyone. The board shifted. Papers straightened. Someone reached for water and missed the glass. So, one of them started. Voice careful. What's next? I didn't answer right away. My throat felt tight. Like I'd been holding something back and my body hadn't caught up yet. I need time, I said. The words landed heavier than I expected. That surprised them. I saw it. They'd braced for a plan, a speech, a list of names. Instead, they got a pause. How much time? Another voice pressed. Gentler, but still pushing. Enough to do this right. A beat, then a nod. Not approval, acceptance. The room emptied in small groups. Quiet conversations that stopped when I looked up. One hand on my shoulder that didn't linger. Another apology that didn't ask for forgiveness. The father was the last to stand. He hesitated. Like he might say something. He didn't. The chair slid back. Shoes receded. The door clicked again. I stayed. The table looked bigger without bodies around it. The folder sat where I'd left it. Open now. Unremarkable. I thought I'd feel relief. I mostly felt tired. Bone deep. The kind that comes after carrying a weight you didn't admit was heavy. I gathered the papers, straightened them, put the folder under my arm. When I turned off the lights, the room didn't argue. I closed the door myself this time. What if fixing things means losing people you like? The changes didn't roll out all at once. They never do. They came as quiet meetings and shorter emails and conversations that ended a little earlier than planned. One person thanked me in the hallway. Didn't stop walking. Just said my name like it mattered again. Another stopped calling entirely. No warning, just gone. I noticed when a meeting ended and their chair stayed empty. A director sat across from me. Hands folded too neatly. You're moving fast. I'm moving deliberately. That's not how everyone sees it. I know. That answer cost me something. I could feel it land between us and stay there. The decision that kept me up came last. I read it 3 times. Then once more. Slower. The name on the page wasn't a villain. Just someone who'd benefited from the wrong system for too long. Someone who'd once covered for me when I was new and scared. Are you sure my counsel asked? Not looking up from his notes. I didn't answer right away. My pen hovered. Ink already bled a little onto my thumb where I'd pressed too hard. Yes, the pen moved. The smudge stayed. The call afterward was brief. Polite. Controlled. They didn't argue. That somehow made it worse. I understand. They said, I just didn't expect it to be you. I didn't expect it either. When the line went dead, the office felt quieter than it had all day. Not empty, just still, like something had settled whether I liked it or not. No one tells you how lonely authority is. They talk about power like it fills a space. Mostly, it clears one. I washed the ink off my thumb and went back to work. What if the real choice is not undoing anything? The final change went through just after midnight. No ceremony, no announcement. Just a confirmation line sliding into my inbox. Clean and final. Governance updated. Authority reassigned. His name removed from the succession path permanently. I stared at the screen longer than I needed to. The keyboard kept clicking in the quiet office. The sound too sharp for the hour. I kept typing anyway. If I stopped, I knew I'd think about it too much. They asked if I wanted the corner office. Bigger desk. Better view. I told them not yet. Maybe not ever. I wasn't ready to sit in a room that felt like a trophy. I cleared out a smaller space instead. One desk, one chair, one photo. My dad and me on a sidewalk I barely remembered, both of us squinting into bad sunlight. I set it where I could see it without trying. I never called him. Not once. Not to explain. Not to soften it. Not to prove anything. Silence felt more honest than any conversation we could have had. A board member stopped by late, leaning against the doorframe. You did what had to be done. I did what I chose. I corrected. They nodded like that mattered. Some nights I wonder if that choice made me colder. Other nights I know it just made me clearer. I shut the laptop and sat there with my hand still on the desk, letting the weight of it settle where it belonged. Not on my shoulders, on the structure I'd locked in place. Here's the thing I learned. The part no one tells you when they talk about power or justice. Walking away isn't strength if you leave the door unlocked. Real change happens when you make a decision you can't quietly reverse and live with it, even when it costs you comfort, approval, or the illusion of being liked. I turned off the light and left the office the way I wanted it left. Closed, quiet, done.